Okay, so this is the paper, and here comes the question. Yeah, this is the question. So in the fourth question, they are asking the Institute of Health Education requires to study about weight gain of students in schools. In order to do that, they measure the weight of the students in each class and calculate the average of students' weights. Draw a flow chart that expresses an algorithm for this task. Assume at the start of this task, they input the total number of students in a class and later input weight of each student, right? So the motive is to calculate the average weight, right, of the student, right? So they say measure the weight of students in each class, right? So measure the weight of students in each class and calculate the average of the student weights, right? So let's go and see how the marking scheme has taken the things. So they have considered the TW, the variable, as the total weight, which is equals to 0. And as they say, they input the number of students at the beginning. So they consider number of student as X, and it's better you write it like input number of students and consider it as X, right? And then get in the class, right? So like class කියන එක මෙතනදී ගොඩක් reflect වෙලා නැහැ, so you don't really need to worry about inputting the class, as they say in measure the weight of student in each class and calculate the average of student weights through the flowchart that express, yeah, input the total number of students in a class and later input, yeah. So like you really don't need to input the class, right? අපිට class එක input එකක් විදිහට ගන්න අවශ්‍යම නැහැ, like but input the number of students, yes it is, right? And what they have done is at the beginning they have equal, like assign n to a variable called x, right? So it is not clear what is n is, neither am I. Yeah. නෑ අපි මේක අන්තිම නේද ඇඳලා එතකොට අපිට ඕක මැනේජ් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. මේකේ පොඩි අඩුපාඩුවක් තියෙනවා to indicate what is n. මේක අනිත් පැත්ත ආවනම් හරි, n equals x කියලා ආවනම් x ගේ value එක n ට assign කරන එක කරන්න ඕනේ, then it should go right. Anyway, we'll draw a simple diagram regarding this, so you will remind how the things are going to go. Yeah, the paper that we discuss. No mind. We'll go with the new one. Old right. Let's take this. Okay, so the requirement is calculating the average of the students of a class by taking the inputs, right? By taking the number of students as as one input and the weights for each student, right? So as usual, we need a start. Right, so we need a start, and then after, as they say, we have to input the number of students in a class. Oh, where this is gone. Okay, anyway, I'll draw it again. Right, so as they say, we have to input, we have to take the total number of students as a one input. So we say input number of student in a class and consider it as, let's take x, right? X to n consider it as n. So this is going to be one input for your task, right? Then how they are going to take the weights, it is like one by one, like person by person, right? So since total number of students are taken as an input, like if we assume like if there are 40 students in a school, in a class, so 40 will be given here, right? Then after, you have to take the weights one by one. So definitely there will be 40 number of weights. You can make input karapu n වල value එකට සමාන වෙන inputs ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි අරගන්න ඕනේ. නැත්නම් weights ප්‍රමාණයක් අපි අරගන්න ඕනේ. Right? So since they are saying taking the weights one by one, that means we have to ask for the weights one by one. So later, our motive or our goal is to calculate the average of the weight. So the process should be a very easy one, like taking the weights one by one and calculating the total as per the given input or like a given weight. Then once the 40 students or like the n number of students are provided with their what we call the weights, then the average should be calculated, right? So then අපිට මේක වෙනස් කරන්න වෙයි සමහරලාට මකලා දේවල් දාන්න වෙයි මම මේක approach කරගෙන යන විදිය ඔයගලන්ට යන්නේ. So we take a number of students, we consider it as n, and then what are we doing is we are asking for the weight of a student. Enter weight of a student and consider it as W, right? So this is going to be another input, right? And when I'm taking the inputs, I have to count how many inputs are given, because at some point we have to figure out whether the count of the weight inputs is going to be equal to n, right? Which is right over here, right? So I'll take the count of the weights as c, right? So when a particular weight is given, I have to increase my count by 1. So increase in count by 1, we write it like c equals c plus 1. But to use something like this, we have to initiate the c in the beginning, right? So in a very sure manner, after start, we have to initialize c. So for that reason, we can take out this arrow from here and we can say, okay, c equals 0, right? That is a process for us to count the number of weights that is given. Weights kiyak dunnada, right? So once the count has happened, we can go from here to here. Once the count has happened, we have to check the count, whether the count is equals to n, or we can check whether the count is not equals to n. So our motive is, when count is equals to n, we have to stop taking the weights, right? If it is not equal to the n, then we have to add that particular weight to the total weight, because until the C is equals to n, whatever the weight is given will be calculated as the total, right? Total right? So then we are testing. මේක මේ එක පින්තූරයක් ගන්න ඕන නිසා මම හරහට අඳින්නම් ඕගොල්ලෝ පහලට ඇඳලා ගැටලුවක් නැහැ, right? So I'm checking is C equals n, right? That is my question. And we can have a yes part and we can have a no part, right? Then if it is yes, we have to calculate the average. If it is not, then we have to like add the weight to the total weight. Can have a weight take a total කරගන්න, right? So whatever the weight is given should be added to the a variable called total weight, because our motive is to take the total of weights. So when that happens, මම මෙතන පාත් දෙක පොඩ්ඩක් මාරු කරන්නම්. එතකොට මට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් වම් අත පැත්තෙන් අරග ගන්න පුළුවන්, දකුණෙන් අරග ගන්න පුළුවන්. So if it is no, we have to do, let's say, total weight as TW equals TW plus W. W is the weight, as we say, right? And again, if we are using something like this, TW should have an initial value. So like C equals 0, we need to have another variable TW, which is equals to 0. Then after, we can go for this, right? Now if the C is not equals to n, as according to our condition, C is n is not true, so we are on the no path. So we add the weight into the total weight. Then what we are going to do is, we are going to ask for the next weight, right? So next weight means we have to move this to right over here, right? Then it will ask for another weight. Counter will be increased by 1 and count will be checked whether it is equal to n. If it is not, then the iteration continues. Once it is equals to n, what we are going to do is we are going to stop taking the weights, then we are calculate the average. So we have total weight in the iteration. So average equals TW. You have two particular things that you can do the division. Either you can divide this by C or this can be divided by N, right? But be careful, don't go with C. මොකද C not C equals N කියන එකේදී නෑ මෙතනදී ගැටලුවක් වෙන්නේ නෑ. C N දෙන්නම equal උනායින් පස්සේනේ අපිට පහළට එන්නේ. So we can go with the C O N. But be careful, in some of the conditions මෙහෙම increase වුණාට සමහර වෙලාවට එක්කෙනෙක් අදාළ ප්‍රමාණයට වඩා වැඩි වෙලා එකක් වැඩි වෙලා නතර වෙන අවස්ථා තියෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? So the safer way is dividing TW by N because N is concrete. අපි මුලදී N ඉල්ලගන්නේ number of students විදිහට, right? So TW is the total of the weights and N is the number of students that we have. So TW divided by N will give you the average, right? So we can have this. Then we can display it. Display average. That is going to be an output. Then we can end it. Right. So this is going to be the flow chart that you can draw for this question. And there can be alternative ways, right? Especially you can change the condition. Is C not equal N, then the paths will be toggled. No will become yes, yes will become no, right? Okay, is this clear, people? Right, how about others? Lamai, is it clear? Right. Okay, so if you have not done this, just have the like copy the flow chart, then we'll go to the second part, right? Just get a minute and copy this thing, right? Right. Is there anyone still getting copied? Otherwise, we can move. Please indicate. All right. So let's move to the next part, the second part. Ogana question consider the flow chart given below. Consider x percentage 2 represent x mod 2. Right. Remainder එක ගැන කියලා තියෙන්නේ. Then they haven't asked anything. එතන question එක තියෙන්න තිබුණා මේකේ මේගොල්ලෝගේ marking scheme එකත් එක්ක follow up කරනකොට they were asking what is done by this particular flow chart, right? ඊළඟට B වල මම හිතන්නේ condition එකට අදාළව ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහලා තියෙන්නේ. Like we don't know C එකේ කියලා තියෙන්නේ Python code එක ලියන්න කියලා. Right? So anyway, let's map the flow chart with the Python code. Right? So it will give you the idea how the things are going to be. Right? So wait until I'm getting a screenshot of this. Okay. All right. Now, yeah. So what they have trying to say is like start t is equal to 0, count is equals to 1. Then it says count less than or equal 10. It is a condition. It is asking to enter a number and consider it as x. And then it is checking whether x is larger than or equal 0 and x is less than or equal 20. There are two conditions, right? And once it is yes, then x remainder 2 is check whether it is a 0. If it is yes, total or like x will be added to t, right? Otherwise it goes to the top by increasing the count by 1, right? So now here we got three condition boxes, and actually we have 4 conditions. One is count less than or equal 10, other one is x larger than or equal 0, and the other one is x less than or equal 20, and then x remainder 2 equals to 0, right? So how we are going to recognize what are these? Like we have to figure out whether these things are iteration conditions or selection conditions. Now how we are going to recognize that? Now we are going to recognize it by looking at the flow, how it happens. Now you can easily recognize an iteration by looking at the condition which breaks the iteration. Iteration එක නතර කරන කෙනා තමයි ඔයගලන්ගේ iteration condition එක කියලා අපිට ගන්න. Right? Now you can see, so flow happens from here. This is happening, then this is happening. So these have been divided to 2 parts, and then here it goes again divided to 2 parts. Then all these things are meeting on this particular point, right, as well as this particular point, path merge thing. Then it goes back again. right? So that means this red color path anyway shows you a iteration, right? So මේ iteration path එකෙන් exit point එක වෙන්නේ මෙයාවත් 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 නෙවෙයි, මෙන්න මෙයා. මෙන්න මෙයා තමයි iteration point එක වෙන්නේ. Right? So definitely this is going to be an iteration. Right? So since these two are not effecting on the iteration, we can assume these things can be selections. And there is another clue for these things to be selections, because when in a selection, the path will be divided into two parts from the condition box, but later they are going to join. දැන් මේ ලොකු condition එකෙන් එන කෙනා මේ condition එකට ඇවිල්ලා එතනිනුත් පාරවල් දෙකක ගිහිල්ලා ආයෙත් මෙතනින් එක්කෙනෙක් common road එකකට වැටෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මෙතනින් අනිත් එක්කෙනා common road එකට වැටෙනවා. So if you consider this point, all the divided arrows are being joined after this point. ඊට පස්සේ කට්ටියම යන්නේ එකම පාරක. Right? So that means this structure indicates a selection. Now, if you consider about the conditions, there are three types of conditions and both are going to be the selection. All three are going to be the selection. Right? ඔය point එක තේරුණාද? Yes, everyone? Did you got that? Right. Okay, how about others? How about others? All right. All right. Okay, so let's start writing the Python. Right now, writing the code is simple once you know the syntaxes, right? So we have nothing to write to represent start. So then we straight away go to the variables. So we say t equals 0, right? And yeah, let me use it somewhere from here, otherwise I won't be able to have it. T equals 0 and count equals 1, right? Then we are given with the condition. So inside the condition, it compares whether count is less than or equal 10. So since we define count before the condition, so we can easily define our iteration after the count. So we can take while, right? Or you can take repeat until. Then make years path එකෙන් තමයි iterate වෙන්නේ නේද? මේ years path එකෙන් තමයි iterate වෙන්නේ. No path එකෙන් exit වෙනවා. So the easy way is taking the while. If it is no, if it is repeat until, you have to toggle the condition. Iteration condition එක completely අනිත් පැත්ත ගහන්න වෙනවා repeat until පාවිච්චි කරොත්. මොකද repeat until එක වැඩ කරන්නේ until the condition gets true. Right? කියන්නේ අපේ iteration condition එක false වෙලා තියෙනකන් වැඩ කරන්න හුරු වෙලා ඉන්න කෙනෙක් තමයි repeat until කියන්නේ. අපේ condition එක true වෙලා තියෙනකන් වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් කෙනෙක් තමයි while කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So you can take while and you can say count less than or equal 10, then the colon should come, right? And then the enter number thing. Now you can see a number will be entered and it will be compared in these places and do the mathematical operations as well. So since it is being compared and mathematically operated, we have to write the input statement and be sure to convert it into an integer, right? So inside the while loop, you should have some indentation. Then you can say x equals, I am taking int function. Inside it, I'm taking input function. So int function will convert my input into an integer. Then I'm asking enter number. Right? So input function returns the user input as a string. වචනයක් විදිහට දෙන්නේ. ඒක integer එකක් බවට පරිවර්තනය කරනවා int function එකෙන්. So finally x will be getting something integer. Now the if conditions. Now in the first condition there are two kind of ifs. Right? ඔයගලන්ට ඒක and clause එක පාවිච්චි කරලා ලියන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right? Good morning. Oh, good morning. Right? Or else you can, since they have used and, we can use nested if. Right? Not the else if, but the nested if. එක if එකක් check කරනවා. ඒක true නම් ඊළඟ if එක check කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ x larger than, first we check whether x is larger than or equal 0. If it is true, then again we check if x is less than or equal 20. Otherwise, you can just say if x larger than or equal 0 and x less than or equal 20. Both the ways are correct. Right? So I'll write one condition inside another condition. Right? So here they are taking if x larger than or equal 0, right? Then a colon should come. Then again we can use a if x less than or equal to 20. Right? And if it is years, we are given with another condition. So years part එකේ condition එකක් හම්බෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ it's going to be a nested if. If එකක් ඇතුලේ තව if එකක්. So if this is true, then we are going to ask this as well. If x remainder to, in the Python, percentage calculates the remainder, equals, two equal signs should be there, 0. Right? And if it is years, we have to do this thing. So Akila will get disturbed. Can you take it there and play with them? No. Please? No. Right? So in here it says t equals t plus x. Right? And in the no parts, we find nothing. Neither මේ දෙන්නගේ no part එකෙත් මුකුත් නැහැ. Neither may no part එකෙත් we can't find anything. In here we can't find anything, and in here we can't find anything. Right, I'm sorry. This person belongs to the no part. So in no parts, we don't have anything. So for this, any of these ifs are not going to have any else's. So this count equals count plus 1. එයා කොහෙට දෙන්නේ? It is outside the if condition, right? So that means it's going to come with the alignment of this if. So we can say count equals count plus 1. Right? Then it is done. Once it is here, it can go and check the condition again. So මෙතනින් පස්සේ ගිහිලා condition එක ආයි check කරනවා, the things will be done. So after the while, so once the while is done, they are saying us to print the t. So we are going to write the print statement with the alignment of this. විභාගෙදී ඔයගොල්ලෝ කඩේරි ගහන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒක හරියට ලියලා පෙන්නනවා නම් හරි. Print, we simply say t, because t is a variable. So that will be on. People, is that clear? If you got any questions, you can ask. Yes, everyone, is that clear? දැන් මේවා කරන එකෙන් ඕගලන්ට තියෙන එකම හොඳ දේ තමයි ඕගලන් MCQ වලට hand tracing වලට හුරු වෙන එක. right? ඒක නිසා කොයි වෙලාවකත් Python question එක දැන් papers කරන්න කිව්වම like තෝරාගත්ත questions කරන්න යන්න එපා. You do the entire paper. Right? So you will be practiced to think about the other things. හරි ළමයි මට confirmation එක ආවේ නැහැ. තේරුම් නැද්ද? තේරුම් නැත්තම් කියන්න මම ආයෙසරයක් කරන්නම්. Right, okay Januda, how about others? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන දැන් අහන්න. Right, then I can assist. Right, meanwhile write these things. ඔගොල්ලෝ Python program එක ලියාගෙන නැත්තම් කොහොමත් මේකේ ප්‍රශ්නේ පැහැදිලි නෑ මොකද්ද කරන්න කියලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. Right, ඔක ලියා ගන්න ගමන් if you got any problem you can ask. Right, I'll give you a minute. Then I'm going for the fifth one, which is the ER diagram one. Right. Are we done? Can we move to the next question? Anyone who is writing down this, please indicate. Otherwise, we can move to the next question. All right. Right. So I'm moving to the next question, right, which is the ER diagram one, the fifth one. Right. So this is the ER diagram that they have given. අපි මේක පොඩ්ඩක් අඳිමු මේකේ මේ මෙන්න මේ start date end date it's supposed to come in between project and client, right? Not in between project and programmer, right? As they explain it in the scenario, right? Let's draw it with the question so it will be easier. Right, so in the fifth question, it says the following are some of the relational schemas, some of the relational schemes of a database of a software development company, right? So some of the schemes, right? Not the all, right? And they have given a scenario here as well. So with the help of the schemas and the help of the explanation, we are asked to draw the ER diagram, right? So let's try these things. Hold on a second, people. I'll copy this to my whiteboard. So this is the schema. And this is the explanation. Right, it's rather big. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Right, so we got everything at one place. Yeah, now it is easy since they have said the programmer project client schemas are there. So some of the entities, like 3 entities, are okay from the schema, right? So without a doubt, we can draw those 3 entities, and we can find the relationship by considering the primary and the foreign key exchange දැන් මේගොල්ලෝ මෙතන පොඩි වැරද්දක් කරලා තියෙනවා right ඒක තියෙනවා මේ copy වෙලා නැහැ right so they have underlined these things as well employee number එක underline කරලා තියෙනවා project number එක underline කරලා තියෙනවා NIC number එක underline කරලා තියෙනවා so that indicates these are the primary keys right if you consider the programmer it has EMP number name address gender qualifications that all project number, project name, budget, that's all. Client NIC number, name, telephone number, address, and free. And you can see no any of the primary keys are duplicated inside the any other schema. Right? එතකොට මෙතන relationship එක හදලා නෙවෙයි schema එක ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද අපිට එහෙම assume කරන්න පුළුවන්. either එහෙමයි නැත්නම් මේ හැමෝම අතරම තියෙන්නේ many to many relationship එකක් එමුණොත් අලුතෙන් tables කීපයක් හැදෙන්න නියමිතයි right මොකද many to many තිබ්බොත් we are not shifting the keys with each other instead of that we are creating a separate table and that separate table is going to have the primary keys of the participating entities and it's going to be a new one with the descriptive values right we'll see whether it is going to be like that so for the moment we can draw a simple ER by indicating this as the programmer one entity and there's another entity called project and there is another entity called client right and we can have the attributes around them very easily right this is EMP name EMP number we have to underline that the name and the address and the gender and the qualification right right and when it comes to the client NIC number that is the prime attribute for name telephone number address and fee yeah there are little so we can take let's assume we are going to draw the relationships බෑනේ අපිට ඊට තියාගන්න වෙනවා ඒකට පාට අදින්න බෑ so let's take name over here and telephone number over here address and fee oh what's happening here so I'm taking address right over here and the fee I'll draw fee over here right and regarding the project number project name and budget so project number that's going to be the prime attribute and project name and the budget. Right. So those are the three entities and the attributes that we have. Now we have to like complete the diagram with the details of the scenario. Right now, what we have done so far is easy. May have make up more oval shapes so ling may address him oval no shapes don't do that, right? Oval shape this is going to be a oval, should be a oval shape, right? Otherwise you are not going to get the marks. Then what here they are going to say, each programmer must have 2 years of experience. Okay, each programmer must have 2 years of experience. Okay, the maker මේගොල්ලෝ marking scheme එකේදී qualification එක multi value කරන්න මේ line එක පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒක එහෙම පාවිච්චි කරන්න තරම් සාධාරණ line එකක් නෙවෙයි. ඒ කියන්නේ 2 years of experience කියන එක multi value කියලා කියන්න බෑ. Right? කිව්වොත් කවුරු හරි experience කියන එක නැත්නම් qualifications make a 2 years of experience in computer science as a qualification. So computer science කියන එක field එකයි qualification එක. ඒතර 2 years කියන එක it won't give you a clue to say multi value. If they say each programmer must have more than one qualification, like each programmer is having 2 types of qualifications or more. එහෙම කියලා තිබ්බනම් it is very justified to take a qualification as a multi-value one. Right? Isa metana multi-value ගන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. It is not justifiable. Right? So we don't have nothing to take from the first line. And depending on the complexity of the project, only one programmer can participate in maximum of 2 projects at a time. Now that is giving you some clue. Depending on the complexity of the project, we actually don't need that to be underlined. Next one is the important one. Only one programmer can participate in a maximum of 2 projects at a time, right? So that gives the relationship between programmer and the project. So programmer participate in project. So to this side it says one programmer, maximum of 2 projects. That means many. මොකද එක program එකක් වුණොත් තමයි 1 to 1 කියලා අපිට read කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ programmer to project side එක. Now still we are not came up with the final cardinalities. තාම මේ program ඉඳලා project පැත්තට cardinality එක අපි figure out කරගත්තා විතරයි. Each project has several programmers. Now, the next one will solve the problem. Each project has several programmers. So when it is read to this side, each project has several programmers. So that means one project can have many programmers. So this means the final cardinality is many to many, because from the top it is 1 and m, bigger one will be taken from these 2, and at the bottom again m and 1, so the bigger one will be taken. So we write n, not the m. Pulwa Pranisha, it's better you say participate. Participates කියලා ලියන්න යන්න එපා. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඒක plural noun එකකට plural verb එකක් එක තමයි මිනිත්තු පොඩ්ඩක් eastward participates. Oh. ඒක ලොකුවටම ගැටලුවක් වෙන්න බෑ. හැබැයි then since they are talking about a many to many relationship over here, it's better you go with participate with the plural verb. Right? All right. Then next one says client make request to the organization for one project they want, and each project has only one client. So that gives you another clue. Client make request to the organization. Now organization is not going to be an entity because organization is not explained over here, right? මෙතනදී මේගොල්ලෝ එතකොට අපිට කතා වෙන්න තියෙන්නේ client makes request for one project they want, and each project has only one client. That is going to be the second clue. Client make request for one project they want, and each project has one client. So project and client can be connected. Here you can say request. Right, my request කියන එක පොඩියට ලිව්ව එතන ඉඩ manage කරගන්න ඕන නිසා. Right, so client request project. So how the cardinality goes, each project has client make request for one project they want. So one client is requesting one project they want, and each project has only one client, and each project has only one client, right? So it is a formative, client side as one and project side as one as well, right? So one and one, right? So now you don't need these things in your answer script, right? ඒවා අපි penciling කරන කටු වැඩ, right? So it's better you take out the rough works, right? So this is going to be your ER diagram, and we got a very final line. Each project must submit a preliminary report to the client, including the start date and the completion date of the project. Then make a ටිකක් විතර මොනවාද හැප්පීම් තියෙන්න පුළුවන් තැන, controversial තැන. Like if you think about a project alone, that project can have a starting date and an ending date, right? අපි project එක තනි කරලා බැලුවොත් project should have a starting date and an ending date, right? And start date and the end date of the project is not depends on the client. Practically අපි බැලුවොත්, right? They will be having a negotiation, right? Client will ask for a start date and the ending date, and project team will provide them, or the project will provide them a start date and the end date, right? But දැන් මම ඔයගලන්ට මේක කතා කරනකොට කිව්වනේ entities දෙකක් සම්බන්ධ කරලා වාක්‍යයක් එනකොට එයා දෙන්නටම අයිති වෙන තැනකට වැටෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒක ප්‍රැක්ටිකලි හිතලා බලන්නත් ඕනේ. දැන් මෙතනදී අපිට දෙන්නටම අයිති වෙනවා කියලා ගන්න අමාරුයි. Each project must submit a preliminary report to the client, including the start date and the completion date of the project. So it is definitely an attribute which is belongs to the project එකට පටන් ගන්න දවසක් තියෙනවා ඉවර වෙන දවසක් තියෙනවා. අපි ඒක මේ descriptive තැන දැම්මොත් කෙනෙකුට කියන්න පුළුවන් client කෙනෙක්ගේ project එකක් start කරන end කරන දවස කියලා. right? එතනදී ඔතන තමයි controversial එක එන්නේ. right? ඒ කියන්නේ project එක පැත්තට start date end date ගන්නවද දෙන්නටම අයිති වෙන විදිහට start date end date තියනවාද කියලා දැන් මට තේරෙන rationale එක the logic that I can understand is like start date and end date should goes with the project because project can have a start date and project can have end date. It doesn't depends on the client. right? But තව කෙනෙකුට තර්ක කරන්න පුළුවන් client ගේ agreement එකක් එක්ක එන නිසා. right? Start date and end date එක client එක්ක client විසින් project එකකට දෙන start date එක end date එක වුණොත්. right? It can be placed under the request or on the request relationship. මෙතන ඒක එච්චර පැහැදිලි නෑ මොන විදිහටද තියෙන්න ඕන කියන එක. right? Each project must submit a preliminary report to the client including start date and the completion of the project. right? ඒක නිසා ඕක දැන් කියන්නේ මට මාක් කරන්න ආවොත් මම ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකට start date end date අරන් තිබ්බත් ලකුණු දෙනවා relationship එකට start date end date අරන් තිබ්බත් ලකුණු දෙන්න පුළුවන් මොකද in most of the cases it's not going to change anything මොකද මේ දෙන්න අතර තියෙන one to one relationship එකක් නේ so මෙතන ඔයගොල්ලෝ මෙතන start date end date දැම්මොත් one to one relationship එකක descriptive attribute එකක් තියෙනකොට it's going to go with either the entities කවුරු හරි entity එකක් එක්ක ඒක relate කරගන්න එක තමයි කරන්නේ one to many තිබ්බොත් තමයි many side එකට ගිහිල්ලා අනිවාර්යෙන් descriptive ටික තියන්න ඕනේ many to many තිබ්බොත් අලුතෙන් හදන table එක ඇතුලේ descriptive ටික තියන්න ඕනේ right මේකේ program and project අතර start date end date තියෙනවා කියලා clue එකක් නැහැ. මේකේ marking scheme එකේ එහෙම දෙයක් සඳහන් කරලා තියෙනවා so it's not going to match. Anyway, the start date and end date of this particular thing can be presented as a descriptive one as well as can be presented as something belongs to the project. Definitely client පැත්තට යන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක අපිට manage කරගන්න පුළුවන් මොකද client start date එකක් end date එකක් එන එක there is no any rationale there is no any logic behind it right either it's going to be a descriptive one or it's going to be something belongs to the project right a point එක clear ද ළමයි preliminary report Ranisha preliminary report කියලා entity එකක් අරගන්නද හදන්නේ එහෙමද is that what you are proposing to yeah අදුව මට මේ අර preliminary report කියන එක තමයි පැහැදිලි නැත්තේ can we add start date and end date as attributes of project and preliminary report project and preliminary report කියන එක preliminary report කියන එක උතන්ට ගාව ගන්න ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක display කරන්න තැනක් නෑ දුව can දුව අහන්නේ descriptive attribute එකක් විදියට දාන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එකනේ පුළුවන් එතනදී logic එකක් ගේන්න පුළුවන් the start date and end date which is provided to the client in the preliminary report කියලා right? ඒක දුව යහන්නේ. Right, project එකෙන් client දෙන report එකේ තියෙන start and end dates. Ranisha, is that what you're asking? Ranisha දුව? UPEC, definitely it's M to N. M එකයි N අකුරයි. M කියලා දාන්න නෑ පුතේ.
සර් අලුත් සිලබස් එකේ M to M කියලා නැද්ද? M කියලා දාන්න.
එහෙම දෙයක් නම් නැහැ. අලුත් සිලබස් එකේ කියලා කිව්වේ තාම සිලබස් චේන්ජ් එකක් වුණ නෑ පුතේ 2017 වලින් පස්සේ.
2019න් පස්සේ නැද්ද සර් ඒක?
නෑ 19න් පස්සේ සිලබස් චේන්ජ් එකක් වෙලා නෑ පුතේ. 2017 වල තමයි සිලබස් චේන්ජ් එක තියෙන්නේ.
සර් ඉස්සර ඉඳන්ම තිබ්බේ N එකයි M එකයිද?
ඔව් ඒ කියන්නේ ඉස්සර කියලා කියන්නේ 2011 ඉඳලම තිබුණේ M එකයි N එකම තමයි. 2017 දී සිලබස් චේන්ජ් එකක් කරා. 17 නෙවෙයි 15 චේන්ජ් එකක් කරා. 15 කරලා ආයි 17 චේන්ජ් එකක් කරා. ඊට පස්සේ ওই ටික තමයි දිගටම ගියේ.
හරි සර්.
මම පොඩක් ආයෙනම් හොයලා බලන්නම්. මට ඉන්ෆෝම් වෙලා තියෙන තරමින් MM නෙවෙයි MN අපිට මාකින් ස්කීම් ටික ඕන පොඩ්ඩක් go through කරලා බලන්න. මට මාකින් ස්කීම් එකේ තිබ්බ විදිහ මට මතක MN කියන එකම තමයි. right මම හොයලා බලන්නම් ආයෙත් අපිට කොහොමද කියලා මට
හරි සර්. හරි. thank you.
ගන්න තරමින් MN right. Right, Ranisha, I got the point. ඔයාලා මේ report එක කියන එක descriptive attribute එකක් විදිහට ගන්න. එතන දුව report එක කියන එක අපිට attribute එකක් විදිහට ගන්න බෑ දුව. The reason is this attribute is going to be the what we call going to be a column of a table, right? At the end of the day, attribute is going to be a column of the table. So in that column, one particular value will be stored. So report එක කියන එක complex descriptive attribute එකක් විදිහට ගන්න. right? ඒතර දුව කියන්නේ report කියලා attribute එකක් අරගෙන ඒකේ නිකන් අර composite එකක් වගේ start date end date දාන්න කියලා නෑ. ඒ තරම් දුරට යන්නේ නෑ පුතේ. right? So either you can put it start date and end date right over here. The මට හිතන most justifiable place එක තමයි project එක ගාවට start date and end date දාන එක. right? Right, so I'll put this start date and end date right over here. Right, so I'm going to put start date and end date. Right over here. So likewise, you can complete the ER diagram. Right, so please go through the things and complete the ER. I'll give you a minute. Then I'm going to answer the next questions. So they ask you write the relational schema correctly according to the ER diagram. ඒතර අපිට මෙතන කරන්න පොඩි වෙනස්කම් ටිකක් තියෙනවා. Right, so complete it. If you got any question regarding this, please ask. Right. Yes, Ranisha, definitely. We can ignore the organization though, because there is no any descriptions regarding organization though. It's just an entity. So uh, again, like can අපි practically හිතුවොත් දුව අපි මේක හදන්නේ මොකක් හරි data ටිකක් store කරගන්නනේ. So organization කියලා entity එකක් හදලා ඒකේ මොන data ද අපි store කරගන්නේ. ඒක ගැන මේ scenario එකේ කතා බහ කරලා නැහැ. So it's pointless of making an entity like organization, right? Then in the exam question, they have given marks කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ incorrect කියලා consider කරලා නැහැ එහෙම ඇඳලා තිබ්බොත්, right? But again, like if you think practically, if you are not storing any data regarding that, so no point of having the entity. Right, people, මේක ඇඳගෙන ඉවරද? අපි scheme එක ලියමුද? තාම අඳින කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් කියන්න. Right, so I'm going for the schema, right? So schema is going to be, so I'm writing the programmer, right? Here goes the programmer. So we can use the EMP number, underlined, name, comma, address, gender, and qualification. Right, we are not closing it because we have to map the cardinalities. Then I'm going to write the project. So the attributes, project number, start date, end date, project name, and budget. So project number, underlined, and do we have project name? Yes, project name, and budget, and start date, and end date. We are not done with it yet. Then we got client, which has the NIC number, the primary key, name, telephone number. Yeah, I doubt about this fee, but for the moment, let's go with that. All right. Yeah. So this is the way we are going to plot the attributes. Now let's match the cardinality. So in between client and the project, we got 1-to-1. So we can duplicate the project number inside the client schema, or we can duplicate the NIC number inside the project schema. So it will match the relationship. Any of that can be done since it is one-to-one, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate project number over here. Right? So the relationship between project and the client is built. And to have the relationship between programmer and the project, we need a new table, right? So I'll take programmer project as its name, and definitely EMP number and project number will be there, and both are considered as the primary keys, the composite primary key. And we don't have any descriptive attributes on the participate relationship. So this is it. This is just the programmer project table, right? So that cardinality is also being matched. So these are the correct 4 schemas. Now you can close the schemas of the other places. Terunada? Yes, Lamai, confirm. Did you get that? Right, great. Okay, I'll give you a minute to complete it. And I'm moving to the next part. Okay, are we done? Please indicate if there is anyone still writing this.
So please for 1 minute.
All right, sure, no problem.
Right, so I'm done.
Right, okay. Is there anyone still writing? Right, so moving to the third part. So this is the second part. Right, so the third part says, assume that you have actually that is not tails, it should be tables. Assume that you have create tables for all the above schema using SQL. Accordingly, write the SQL statement to add new field called email address to the programmer table. So now we have to assume that programmer table is already been created, right? So the first table. Now we are going to add another field, that means a column, saying email address into this. That means we are going to change the structure of a table. That means we are going to use alter table clause to do that particular changing, right? So Third one, we can write alter table. There is no rule to write the SQL clauses in capitals. You can write it in simple as well. That doesn't matter, right? So we have to say alter table and we have to say the name of the table, right? So programmer, right? And be very careful when you are finding something like this on your exam paper. ඔගලන්ගේ පේපර් එකේ දැන් මේ ස්කීමාස් තුන දීලා තියෙනවා මමත් ඒ වැරද්ද කරලා තියෙනවා මේ පටන් ගන්න අකුරු තුන තියෙන්නේ capital. So definitely go with the capital, right? මොකද ඒවා පේපර් එකේ දෙන දේවල්, so they will look for those, right? අනිවාර්යෙන් ඒක බලනවා. එතකොට හරි විදියට තිබ්බේ නැතිනොත් දැන් SQL වලට අදාළව නම් P capital නොවුනොත් මේක ඇඩ් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද SQL වලට බෑ වෙනස් නම් වලින් tables දිනකොට අඳුන ගන්න. Even the case is not going to happen, right? So exactly under, right? සමහර SQL versions වල තියෙනවා case sensitive අවුලක් නැතුව අරගන්න, but it's better you go with the exact same thing, right? So alter table programmer. Now here what we are going to do is we are adding something to this particular table. So you have to use add, right? Then you have to say what is the field that you are going to add and what is the data type of it, right? So add, then we are say email address. Take it as the question says, E capital email address. Then with a space you have to say what is the data type. So you can use vacha or cha, and you have to specify the number of characters that you are going to use. Saying it is as 30, and be sure to have semicolon at the end. So this is going to be the alter table statement. Alter table programmer, add email address vacha 30, right? That will add a particular field to the table program. ළමයි තප්පරයක්. Right. තේරුණාද? If you want to clear something, so you can ask, right? Right. So the fourth part, it is asking write the SQL statement to display project start date and project completion date with the programmer's name and project number, right? So when they ask to write something, the first thing that we have to figure out what to be written, what to be shown as the output. So it clearly says display project start date. So you have to find where these fields are. Now project start date is right over here. This is start date and this is end date. And they are asking for end date with the programmer's name and project number. So programmer's name is right over here. And project number, it is right over here. Right, so these four things should be there. And we know the relationship between project and the programmer is many to many, right? One particular project can be worked by many different programmers, and one particular programmer can act or can work inside many different projects, right? So the relationship between programmer and the project is given by this particular table. මෙතනින් තමයි ඒ දෙන්නගේ relationship එක හැදෙන්නේ. මොන programmerද මොන project එකේද ඉන්නේ කියන එක. Right? If we consider the programmer schema and project schema alone, we won't be able to see any relationship in between those. ඒ දෙක විතරක් ගත්තොත්. So we have to consider the programmer project and the programmer project, all three tables, to clarify the particular relationship. Then what if you got project number 001 වල ඉන්න programmer කවුද කියලා, right? ඔයගලන්ගේ project program එකෙන් තමයි මෙතන project number 001 කියන එක්කෙනාට අදාළව තියෙන employee number එක හොයා ගන්න ඕනේ. එයා E002 උනොත් E002 ඊට පස්සේ මෙතනට match කරලා තමයි නම හොයා ගන්න වෙන්නේ. Right? So whenever you need to find something which is related to programmer and project, you have to consider the programmer project table as well, because it is the place where the connection lies, like where the connection explains in between project and programmer. A point එක clear-ද? Yes, everyone? Is that clear? Yeah, right, okay. So now, when we need to write the SQL statement, this is the way you are going to write it. So first thing, since here we are like referring to many different tables, be careful when you are working with the displaying things, right? Now, you are going to refer to a particular like three tables which may have common things. Then start date, it is unique for project. End date, it is unique name for a project. Start date, end date කියලා වෙන තැන් වල duplicate වෙලා නැහැ. If you take the name, අපි නිල් පාටින් underline කරලා තියෙන ටිකනේ අරගන්නේ, name කියන එක ගත්තොත් in these three tables, programmer project and programmer project. So like programmer schema, project schema, and the programmer project schema, name is not being duplicated, but project number is there inside the project schema as well as programmer project schema. So when you are set to select project number, you have to specify which project number that you are going to select. Is it from the project schema or is it from the programmer project schema? Right? Otherwise, SQL will be having some complexities and will give the error. project number කියලා තැන් දෙකක තියෙනවා මට තෝරන්න කියලා තියෙන tables වලින් මොන project number එකද මම තෝරන්නේ. SQL will have that problem, right? And when it is come to the joins, it's better you put the references clearly. කියන්නේ references නැතුව අපිට යන්න පුළුවන්, but it's better you mention so it is very clear with you. So when you come to that kind of a situation, you can use the aliases as well. මං විදි තුනෙන්ම ලියලා පෙන්නන්නම්, right? The most simplest way and the kind of a riskful way is this. You can say select. Now you are going to say what to be selected, right? So it's better we say according to the they have to what they have to, the way they ask us to select, right? Project start date, project completion date, with programmer's name and project number. So කැමති පිළිවෙලකට දැම්මත් ගැටලුවක් නැහැ, මෙතන හරි පිළිවෙලක් ඒගොල්ලෝ කියලා නැති නිසා. So you can say select name, that gives the programmer name, and since the project number, it's better you say project dot project number, comma, start date, comma, end date from programmer, P capital, project and programmer project. අපි එක ලියලා තියෙන්නේ all simples විදිහට. Right? Then the conditions. Now, when it comes to the conditions, there are obvious conditions. When it comes to the joins, obvious conditions are there. Obvious conditions means you have to specify what are the common columns in between these tables. If you consider the programmer project and programmer project, the last table, the common columns are going to be project number in between project and the programmer project table, and employee number in between programmer and the programmer project table, right? So you have to say where programmer dot emp number equals programmer project dot emp number. You must give the reference. මොකද නැත්තම් මෙතන මොන table එකේ emp number එක මොන table එකේ emp number එකට එනවද කියන එක clear වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? Then you have to use and clause because you are saying another relationship. You have to say project dot project number equals programmer project dot project number. That concludes the SQL statement, right? So this is the simplest way of writing it. Simplest way කියන්නේ references අඩුවෙන්ම පාවිච්චි කරලා ලියන්න පුළුවන්. මේකේ මේ තියෙන නම් ටික අපිට තව අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන් aliases පාවිච්චි කරොත්, right? So you may write this. I'll write the other two ways that you can write. So this is going to be the second method. Select මෙතන මම references හරියටම දීලා ලියනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ හැම table එකේම කෙනා කවුද කියලා. එතකොට it's the same thing, only different comes with the select statement. Right? මම මේක copy කරලා ගන්නම්. ඒක මට ලේසි. මට එතන විතරයි එතකොට change කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. Right, you only need to change this particular line. මොකද ඒක විතරයි මේකේ references නැත්තේ. So I'm saying programmer dot name, programmer table එකේ name එක ගන්න. Right, then anyway this should be there. Project dot project number, comma project dot start date, comma project dot end date, dot end date. Right, ඕක තමයි references ඔක්කොම ටික දීලා ලියන විදිහ. Right, ඒ කියන්නේ හැම table එකේම මොන column එකද කියන එක අපිට dot එකෙන් refer කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතර ඔය දිග SQL query එක අපිට කොට කරගන්න පුළුවන් if we use the table aliases. කියන්නේ මේ table වෙනුවට පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් තව අකුරක් අපිට introduce කරන්න පුළුවන් in the from clause. Right, so I'll show that way as well. Right, aliases පාවිච්චි කරනකොට අපි කරන්නේ from clause එකේ we give the aliases programmer. If I say A, you can use capital or simple letters, programmer space A, comma project space B, programmer project space C. If you use these aliases A, B and C, now we can use A for programmer, B for project and C for programmer project. එහෙම කරාම අපිට මේ programmer කියලා දිගට ලියන එක select statement එකේ ඉඳලා change කරන්න පුළුවන්. We can say A dot name, and here instead of project we can say B dot project name, and here we can say B dot start date, and here we can say B dot end date. And even for these places we can say this is programmer, so A dot employee number, this is programmer project, so it is C dot employee number, and this is project B dot project number equals C dot project number. Right, so tables තුනේ නම් තුන වෙනුවට අපි aliases තුනක් define කරනවා. So aliases will be defined in the from statement, right? So මේවා මේ හිස්තැන් තිය ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ අන්තිම එක ලියනකොට මම අර මක්කපු නිසා ඔයගලන්ට හිස්තැන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ ඒක ළඟ ලියන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මතක තියාගන්න the programmer from statement එකේ programmer space a තියෙන්න ඕනේ. comma project space b space එකෙන් තමයි alias එක වෙන් කරගන්නේ. C එකේ programmer project space c, right? මෙතන ලියන්න පුළුවන් space අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. C dot emp number, this is C dot project number, then you should have the semicolon. හරි මං මේක ටිකක් උඩට කරනවා ලියන්න අවශ්‍ය කට්ටිය ක්‍රම තුනම ලියා ගන්න, right? මම තව ටිකකින් third එක දාන්නම්. Right, I'm moving up a little bit. If you are done, let me know, people. ඉවරද ළමයි? Right. One is done. How about others? All right. Okay, so let's do the last question and end the session. මම එක බොහොම lazy question එකක් තියෙන context diagram එකක් අඳින්න, so I'll go by the marking scheme, right? So let's see whether the marking scheme is giving us the correct diagram. Yeah. ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ මෙතන මේගොල්ලෝ සිංහලෙන් තියෙන නේද? Anyway, I'll draw it. I'll draw it. Hold on. Right. So I'm going through the. I'm going with the description in the paper. Right. It says draw a context diagram to show the overview of the online exam system described below, adhering to the standard of SSADM. Infotech University conduct exam for students through an online system called e-exam system. So our exam system will be, or like the system will be e-exam system. So that should be mentioned here in a rectangle. Then it says university staff prepare question paper and instruction for this system and insert them into the system. So it's the university staff that is creating, right? So you can take staff member because a particular entity is going to be a singular one. So staff member, if you say staff, it's going to be a problem, people, right? Staff member. I'll draw it a little bit up over here. And they say it's staff prepare question papers and instructions for the system and insert them into the system. So they are giving two things. One is the question papers, and the instructions. You can put the question paper and instruction in a one particular line, but I prefer you put it in two separate lines, right? The permission required to use the system by the student must be obtained from the university. Yes, so student is going to be another entity. Since they are obtaining the permission details from the university, university is going to be another entity. And here, permission details given by the university to the student. So it is a data flow in between entity to another entity. So it should be in dotted lines, right? And then it says, and the student will be logged into the system to collect their respective question papers online. So to log into the system, first student should like provide the permission details, right? So permission details is given to the system by the user, right? And once the permission details is given, they can take the question paper, right? So what they are receiving is an online question paper. Right? Yeah. The administrator will set the exam time. That means administrator, there is another entity, there should be another entity called administrator. He's the one who set in the exam time. So exam time should be communicated to the system. So once it is given the question paper, it will set the time, and it says start the exam and operate the server. So exam starting details should also be given, and serve operation details should also be given. When the exam is over, the system will output the result to the administrator. So result is the one which is received by the administrator. Right? So it's a simple one. We really don't need to, there is nothing hidden in the scenario. So it's very clear what is happening. And always remember, write the details in between the flow line. And when it is done by entity to entity, use the dotted lines. Right? And if you want to duplicate a particular entity, you can use a slash inside it. Then student will duplicate කරන්න ඕන not. මේ විදිහට student duplicate කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මෙතන අපිට student duplicate කරන්න උවමනාවක් නැහැ. Right? If you want to do that, you can duplicate it like this. Right? Okay, people, any questions? And please complete it if you have not completed it fully. And finally, it is asking list 3 functional requirement and non-functional requirement from the system. I'll go it by the marking scheme. Right, let me see whether the marking scheme got any answers for that. Ah, yeah, there are. So this is the answer for the 6th question. And we can end the session by discussing the functional and non-functional requirements. I'll just show it to you and tell what are the things. Let me know when you are done with this. Now we are going to discuss the 2011 paper by next week. So be prepared with it. MCQ එකයි essay එකයි දෙකම කරන්න. And please time it and do. Right? Time කරලා කරන්න. කෑලි කෑලි කරන්න යන්න එපා ඒක තේරුමක් නැහැ. Right? First paper එක පැය දෙකක් අරගෙන කරන්න. ඊට පස්සේ වෙනම පැය තුනක් වෙන් කරගෙන second paper එක try කරන්න. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ structured paper එකට answer කරලා you choose 4 questions and answer it. Later you will try the other 2. Right? Questions හයම try කරන්න කියලා මම නම් කියන්නේ. Right? So if you want to take your maximum out of it, it's the best way to practice. Right? දැන් නේද ගේම් බෝල් එක තියෙන්නේ ඕගොල්ලෝගේ අතේ. right? දැන් මගෙන් වෙන්න ඕන දේවල් ගොඩාක් දුරට සිද්ධ වෙලා ඉවරයි. අපිට තව PHP ටික කතා කරන්න තියෙනවා. IoT lesson එක මොන වගේද කියන එක මම පොඩ්ඩක් පෙන්නන්නම් ඔයගලට. ඒකෙන් ලොකු බලපෑමක් නැහැ exam එකට. That's done. Then it is done actually. Right? So please prepare. Right? තාම exam කල් යනවා කියලා තීරණයක් නැහැ. ඒක නිසා ඔක්තෝබර් වල තියෙනවා කියන තැනට ඔළුව හදාගෙන කරන්න. කල් යයිද නැද්ද කියන එක ඒක කරන කට්ටියට බාර දෙන්න. ඕගොල්ලෝ මේ වැඩේට ලෑස්ති වෙන්න. Okay, are we done, people? So if you are done, I can show you the functional requirements and the non-functional requirements so we can end the session. All right. One is done. Is there anyone still writing this? Or I can move to the marking scheme. Right. Here comes the answers for the last part. So here they are like given it from Sinhala. So I'll tell you what are the English things. So the functional requirements, the system. Now, when you are going to write, it's better you use the should word, right? There is a standard of writing the functional and non-functional requirements. Essential requirements should start with should. Nice to have requirement should start with shall, right? So you have to say should be able to check the identity of a student. That is going to be a functional requirement. Should be able to receive exam paper online. That is going to be a functional requirement, right? Then should be able to receive the results from the system. And it's better you say with the character. Student should be able to take the online paper or like receive the online paper from the system, right? And to the administration side or the system side, system should be able to check the student identity, right? ඔගලගේ ER diagram එක පැත්ත දිහා බැලුවොත් බලලා කියන්න පුළුවන් ඔය ගොඩාක් දේවල්, right? System should be able to receive a question paper from a staff member. System should be able to receive instructions from a staff member, right? And system should be able to receive the permission details from a student, right? And administrator should be able to receive the result, as well as administrator should be able to send or like the provide exam date, exam time to the system. Likewise, context diagram එක දිහා බලුවම functional requirements ඔයගලන්ට ඕන තරම් හදාගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So non-functional requirements, ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කියනවා functional requirements කියලා කියන්නේ system එකෙන් user බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන දේ නැත්නම් system එකෙන් user ට දෙන දේ. Non-functional requirements කියලා කියන්නේ what are the limitations of the system, right? So it is talking about the interfaces, the efficiencies, the accuracy, those kind of things, right? So like should be able to provide a user-friendly interface, right? And should be able to provide the paper on time of the examination, right? So likewise, අන්තිමට කියලා තියෙන එක නම් සිංහලෙන් මට ෂුවර් නැහැ. පද්ධතියට ප්‍රවේශ වීමට යතුරක් පැවති යුතුයමය. ඒක functional requirement එකක්, right? Not a non-functional one, right? So you can say by looking at the looking at your diagram, permission details should be able to provide in an accurate manner, right? Accuracy sambandhi, right? System should not show any delays of delivering the question paper. හිර වෙන්න කරන්න බෑ, right? ඊළඟට staff member should be able to upload the question paper from any different operating system or from using any different platform, right? Likewise, you can apply the non-functional requirements accordingly, right? If you got any different answers, let me know them. මට WhatsApp එකක් එවන්න. ඒතර මම බලලා කියන්නම් ඒක හරිද වැරදිද කියන එක. Right, so people, I'm going to end the session from here in a very quick manner because I have to leave to the hospital as well, right? So I'll see you on the next Saturday for the same time from like 9 to 11, right? So thank you for coming today, right? Other 7 දෙනෙක් ඇවිල්ලා හිටියද මේ වෙලාවේ 4 දෙනෙක් room එකේ හිටියට ඉවර වෙනකොට. So thanks for coming, and the recording will be there on the website. You can refer those things as you want, right? So I'll end the session from here, and thanks for coming, people, right? Thank you very much. Have a very nice weekend, right? Thank you very much.